What's going on, everybody? Happy Tuesday. It's time for another edition of FA Sports Talk. I'm here with Adam Ronis. What's going on, Adam?
What's up, Jen? Yeah, just another day trying to get by with no sports. I know some have returned, just not sports that I like very much. So just trying to stay afloat, get ready for the NFL season. Been doing a lot of best ball drafts.
Yeah, I have too. Did a really fun one the other day with Colton and the Wolfman. That's all we can do, right? I mean, just the best we can.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, we hope that baseball could return. I think it's difficult right now to do a fantasy baseball draft just because we don't know how it's going to look, how many games there will be. So once we get final word, we can adjust rankings accordingly. But I'm just not in the position right now where I feel comfortable drafting a fantasy baseball team. I always do a ton of best ball for football. Usually I kick it up end of May, early June because obviously baseball is usually going on. Started it earlier this year, so it's going to help me get a big jump on fantasy football prep. And I've done a lot of breakdown of wide receivers, doing the wide receivers preview series on fantasyalarm.com, so you can check that out. Already done, I think, like 7 articles looking at wide receivers. So yeah, so it's helped the preparation for football get started a little bit earlier.
I mean, that all of that is true, and that it's nice because we can focus on NFL. And you know what? While we're talking about NFL, let's just keep talking about NFL. First of all, we got news just a few moments ago that NFL has tabled that proposal that was going to give draft stock for hiring minority candidates. We talked about that on Wednesday, and it looks like they have approved a resolution that ends clubs' ability to block assistant coaches from interviewing for coordinator jobs with other teams. So that's the biggest news out of the NFL today. I think that's the right call. What do you think, Adam?
Yeah, I mean, you got to let these coordinators interview. I mean, we need to get some fresh coaches in there. We've seen some of the young coaches given an opportunity have done well. You just hate to see these same coaches who have not had a success in years or cycled and brought in over and over. So I think it is they need to give these coordinators an opportunity. They should not be allowed to be blocked. I mean, how often does someone get blocked for an opportunity to move up at a job? It just doesn't happen. So let these guys get the opportunity to interview, and some of them have done a really good job.
Yeah, I think it's the right call. So speaking of some NFL news, let's actually go to a little bit of NFL gossip and some social media stuff. Let's have some fun. So I don't know if you saw, did you see the Instagram fight between Michael Thomas and Devontae Parker yesterday?
I did.
Yeah. So for those of you who didn't see it, basically Devontae Parker and Michael Thomas were both commenting on an Instagram survey. One was about, Parker said he thought it was harder to make a catch versus Stephen Gilmore than breaking up a pass guarding Michael Thomas. And Michael Thomas took that personally, and it got a little nasty. And I'm sorry, but what is up with Michael Thomas? Is it like his time of the month all the time? What's up with that guy?
A very confident guy. I think he did overreact. I mean, if you're Devontae Parker, you obviously have never faced Michael Thomas before. You haven't tried to prevent him from catching a pass. He's very familiar with Stephon Gilmore going up against him in the division, and we know how good Gilmore is. So, I mean, I guess Parker didn't have to comment on it at all. He decided to. People are bored, and he decided to make the comment. But, if he would have went in the other direction, Gilmore could have saw it and said, oh, yeah, okay, well, watch what happens when I face you. So I think Thomas did overreact. But at the same time, Devontae Parker kind of has no place for getting into a verbal battle with Michael Thomas. He's going to lose that. And I've been a big Devontae Parker proponent for years. Actually, last year was the first year that I did not draft Devontae Parker of all years to be out on Parker. Last year, the wrong year. But I gave him 4 years, and, it just didn't happen. And finally, whether it was the absence of Adam Gase or the opportunity, because people forget Preston Williams actually led that team in targets, receptions, and yards before he got injured. He wound up playing 8 games, and then Parker went off getting a big target share. So I think there was a lot of factors. I think Adam Gase did hold him back. Parker had some injuries, but when you look at resumes, I mean, Michael Thomas clearly trumps him. I know Parker made some comments that, he wished he got 300 targets a game. And yeah, Michael Thomas dwarfed anyone as far as competition for targets last year. I mean, he had, 185, I believe, and the next closest was Julio Jones at 157. So, yeah, Thomas gets a ton of targets, but he's also very efficient, catch rate of around 80%. And it wasn't only Drew Brees. He still produced with Teddy Bridgewater at quarterback. So, yeah, Thomas overreacted, but then Parker's not going to win any battle when it comes to NFL accomplishments between these two receivers. Whether Parker can argue, well, you had Drew Brees. It doesn't matter. Parker's 27 years old, and it took until year 5 for him to finally have that big season.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you can't argue that, but to me, because you can't argue that is exactly why Michael Thomas should just shut up and step away. Let him believe in himself or take this little vote. He didn't say anything taunting. He just answered A. It was an A or B question. He answered A. Get over it, dude. I don't know. It's not a good look. I don't like it. So, but as far as why are we even having a conversation about who's better? It's not. It's not a question.
Thomas just, I guess, I don't know. He took it personal because the answer wasn't him. So, he overreacted to it. And I guess every little bit of entertainment now draws up headlines.
That's exactly what it is because we're in quarantine. And speaking of that, it's really big news. Big Ben trimmed his beard. And he had said he wasn't going to trim his beard until he was ready to throw an NFL level pass. So does this mean Big Ben is back?
I mean, I think he should be fine. I mean, we still need to see more. I think he is a guy you probably want to see in training camp if there is one, coming off this elbow injury. But the fact that he is able to throw passes definitely is a good sign. Juju Smith-Schuster was on the video saying he's back. And clearly, they're going to need Ben Roethlisberger if they want to make a deep run into the postseason this year. They clearly were, I thought, amazing job by Mike Tomlin last year. I couldn't believe that they stayed in contention with Devlin Hodges and Mason Rudolph at quarterback. That offense was so bad last year. I know they had injuries. James Conner went down. Juju Smith-Schuster eventually went down. But still, it was a terrible offense. And they're very good defensively. Their defense kept them in it. And this is a team that went 8-8. It was just 2 years ago that Roethlisberger had a great year, over 5,000 yards. He attempted 675 passes. I don't think they want that again, and they might not need to do that with him because that defense is so good. But, yeah, I think Ben Roethlisberger can bounce back. We talked about comeback player of the year. I don't know if it was last week or 2 weeks ago on our roundtable discussion, and Roethlisberger was my pick. Quarterbacks tend to win these awards, and coming back at age 38, he's got weapons on this offense. Juju Smith-Schuster, I know a lot of people are kind of questioning whether he can be a number one. I don't think we've gotten that answer. I cannot look at last year and judge him on that. But Deontay Johnson was really good last year with that subpar quarterback play. He gains a lot of separation, so he's a dynamic receiver. I like him this year in fantasy. They add Eric Ebron in. Never been a big fan, but he does command targets in the red zone, and Roethlisberger's not averse to going to his tight ends. They still have Vance McDonald. So there's weapons in this offense.
Yeah.
So I think Roethlisberger, the one downside with Roethlisberger is he doesn't run. But we're seeing all those running quarterbacks are being taken pretty much in the top 12. I think fantasy owners are getting smart, and you're really not getting any quarterbacks that run at a value. Maybe Joe Burrow, the rookie, he's going to run a little bit. But Roethlisberger, I'm fine with this, my QB too. I did a best ball draft where my quarterbacks are Carson Wentz and Ben Roethlisberger. Yeah, both probably have some injury risk, but I'm willing to go to battle with those two.
That makes sense to me. I want to ask you about a few of those weapons you mentioned earlier. So Juju Smith-Schuster, how do you feel about him this year? Low-end wide receiver one. I mean, now that they have Chase Claypool, they're saying Claypool's going to go out wide. He was built more like a tight end, and that Juju will probably be back in the slot. Do you think that upgrades him a little? Does that change anything for you?
Yeah, I mean, he's probably a high-end wide receiver, too. I have yet to draft him, not just because I don't want him. It just hasn't worked out. I'm willing to take a shot on him. I mean, there are question marks with him, because he did it 2 years ago with Antonio Brown on the other side. So how is he going to respond to being the main wide receiver? But what he did in his first 2 years in the league, I mean, it was dynamic. So I know a lot of the stats when he did play last year were not good. But again, I'm going to chalk that up to poor quarterback play. I think this Steelers offense is in a good spot. So, yeah, I think Juju can bounce back. Now, the thing is, you're not really getting an extreme discount on him. He is going from the drafts that I've done in that wide receiver 12 to 16 range. So it really depends where you draft and what you have on the roster at the time. I'm willing to take him. It just hasn't happened yet. I'm in the middle of my fourth best ball draft, and I have yet to get him.
You think James Washington's the odd man out here of the wide receivers?
Yeah, I think he's in trouble. He really did impress last year. We got the opportunity, and Deontay Johnson looked a lot better. So,
right.
Yeah, I like Deontay Johnson a lot more.
Yeah, me too. I want to ask you a little bit about your feelings about James Conner. We've had a lot of debate about this over the last week or two. I'm in the camp of Tomlin likes to use one back. He's super talented. He's still young. I know he had some injury last year, but where you can get James Conner now, like in the fourth round, to me, it's a no-brainer because I think at minimum he's going to be a RB2 for you. So how do you feel about it, Adam?
He's not a target for me. I mean, I just took him in a recent draft, but it's a product of where I was picking. I was picking 12. Right. So when I came back on the 3-4 turn, there wasn't anything great there. So in a best ball draft, I'm more cognizant of getting that running back because we can't go to the waiver wire. If it's a redraft league, I pass on a lot of the running backs that I don't like in rounds 3, 4, and 5. If I can get one in the first 2 rounds, I'll figure it out during the season. I'll take my shots, round 8 and beyond. And all I need to do is hit on one. If that number 1 guy comes through for me, and I've done that a lot the last couple of years. Last year I did it in the FSGA with Saquon Barkley, had the 2 pick. Someone took McCaffrey 1, which upset me because McCaffrey was my number 1 overall last year, and I thought I would get him at 2, but someone was smart, took McCaffrey 1. So I had Barkley at 2, and then I went wide receiver heavy, and I didn't get a running back, I think, until like round 7. And I didn't have a great record, but because they do top 3 records and then the next 3 teams with the most points, I got in the playoffs and I was able to win the league. Now, Barkley wasn't great the whole year, but he did finish strong, really helped me in the playoffs. So I just feel like you only have to start a max of 2 running backs in most leagues. Most leagues are 2 running backs, 3 receivers, and 1 flex spot. There are some leagues that use 2 flex spots. So I'm in a redraft league where I can go to the waiver wire or a league with trades. I just want to get 1 solid back. I mean, yeah, clearly I'd like 2 or 3, but I think people make the mistake, and I'm seeing it again. Oh, well, I'm going to come away with 3 running backs in the first 4 rounds. There's a chance that 2 of those guys don't hit. Go look back and look at last year's those running backs that were going in rounds 3 and 4. Devonta Freeman, he sucked. So a lot of these guys don't come through. So I think the message that people are sending out, oh, well, you got to get your running backs early, is wrong because these guys can bust. So in a best ball league, yeah, I'm going to be more cognizant, and I'll take a shot on a James Conner around 3 or 4. In a redraft league, I'm not going to do it as much. Give me 1 good running back. I'll take all these good wide receivers. Everyone's like, oh, there's good wide receiver depth. You can wait. Yeah, there's guys you can get late, but some of these guys in rounds 4 and 5 are really good that are going to produce for you. So if everyone's going to load up on running backs early, I'll pass on them, and I'll wait, and I'll figure it out. Last year was a terrible year on the waiver wire. I don't think that'll be the case this year. Things change. There'll be more injuries. There'll be more guys that emerge. And especially if I can get that elite guy, especially if you're picking in the top 5. You get McCaffrey, Barkley, Kamara, Cook, Zeke. I'm good. I got 1 solid guy. And the only thing that's really going to derail those guys is injury. I mean, it pretty much is. I mean, McCaffrey's done it now, 2 straight years. Barkley is one of the most explosive players in the NFL. Zeke, as long as he's healthy, is going to have a high floor. Same thing with Dalvin Cook, injury with him. Kamara last year wasn't 100%. The first 2 years he scored a ton of touchdowns, and the touchdowns came down last year. But he even said it himself. That ankle was bothering him all year. That's going to change. So especially if I'm picking early, I'm not worried about that second running back. I'll find it. Best ball is a little bit different because we can't make moves. So I think a lot of these running backs are being overvalued. And Conner, again, I'm okay with him. It just felt like, a lot of other people are way higher on him than me because, again, he has not shown the ability to hold up over the course of a season. He was really good 2 years ago, replacing Le'Veon Bell, but he still only played in 13 games. Last year, he only played in 10. So, yeah, the Steelers want to go with 1 running back. They also drafted Anthony McFarland. Jalen Samuels is there. Benny Snell's there. So I'll take Conner in a best ball like I just did as my RB2, but in a redraft league, round 3, 4, I just think there's better wide receivers there.
So you think you're fine. So, let's say you don't take a running back in round 2, You take a wide receiver, and then like, what kind of running back are you willing to roll with if you have like a Zeke? Because pretty much it goes to committee pretty quickly. Do you think you can still get like a Marlon Mack? Are you going like that? Like, what are you thinking? What do you think would work?
No, I mean, look, it obviously gets pretty worse down the board, but all I need to do is just find someone that's competent that has a role in an offense. So, I mean, obviously the ADPs that we're seeing from running backs right now are pretty high, but I'm going to take my shot. And look, last year in that league where I took Barkley, a lot of the guys did not hit. It was like Latavius Murray.
Yeah, what are you going to die on the Brian Hill or the Bo Scarborough? Or it wasn't easy to pick up running backs off the wire last year.
Right, but that was last year. It could be different this year. I just don't want to overpay for running backs that I'm worried about that their role. I'll take a shot maybe if it's not too expensive on a Kareem Hunt, a Darius Geis, a Tevin Coleman. I'll just load up on these guys, and there's going to be injuries. So one of those guys could emerge. I'll take a Zach Moss late. I'll take a Duke Johnson late. A Matt Breida. I'll just take shots with all those guys. All I need is one of them to work out if I have that number one bell cow back, because I play in a lot of PPR leagues. So I'll start 4 wide receivers, And again, if people are just going to take all these running backs, as we're seeing in early ADP, I mean, these running backs are going earlier and earlier. You're generally seeing 10, 11 in the first round. And I just think people are talking them into themselves. Oh, well, David Johnson changes scenery. He's going to be fine. Oh, James Conner was like, there's injury risk with these guys. And people did it last year and they got burned. David Montgomery burned people. Devontae Freeman burned people.
Yeah, but David Montgomery didn't burn people because of injury. He burned people because they didn't use him effectively.
But he was still taken in the 3rd, 4th round. And people are doing the same thing. A lot of these running backs are going to disappoint again. And you'll see. We're going to come back and have this discussion, and people will be like, oh, I shouldn't have did that with a lot of these running backs.
Okay. So who do you think would be in the 2nd round? Like, what kind of a wide receiver would you target?
Well, I mean, I cannot believe how late Julio Jones is going in some of these drafts. And I have said this. I don't know if you were on the round table. One of these years, Julio is just going to fall off because he's getting older. And these big wide receivers don't age well. And it doesn't happen gradually. It happens all of a sudden. It's like, oh, wow. Now, I'm not calling that for Julio this year, but I wouldn't be surprised if it happened. But I'm still willing to take him. I mean, I've seen some drafts where he's going late 2nd round. And at that point, I'm gonna take him. I think his ADP in best ball 10s since May 4th is like, the 2nd round. So I'll take him in that spot. Allen Robinson, I love. I think he's being undervalued.
I love Allen Robinson big time. I got it for like $18 in an auction last week.
He had the 3rd most targets in the NFL last year, over 150. He's produced with subpar quarterback play his whole career.
Quarterback, yeah.
Yeah, he put up a tremendous season with Blake Bortles, and he got it done last year with Trubisky. And Nick Foles could be a little bit better, but they really we know where the targets are going. It's Allen Robinson, Anthony Miller, Tariq Cohen out of the backfield. I know they added Jimmy Graham, but I just don't see him playing a big role. Robinson's the guy. I'll take Robinson early round. I'll jump his ADP. I mean, his ADP it has moved up a little bit in the best ball 10 since recently, but it's still not where it should be. So I love Allen Robinson. I'll jump him. There's just so many good wide receivers in that like 8 to 24 range of wide receivers. There really isn't, when you do projections, it's really not a big difference. So look, if people are going to let those wide receivers fall, I'll go with a running back and then draft 3 receivers next. Again, best ball, I'm going to, probably go the running back route just because, again, I can't make moves on the waiver wire. Mm-hmm. And the running backs that I get late, it's a possibility they never play a big role. But in a redraft league where I can make moves and I can make trades, I'm not going to force the running back spot. And I think a lot of people are going to do that. And I've always said, if people are going to overdraft and let value fall to you, scoop up the value. Any good fantasy owner will figure it out during the season.
Speaking of running backs by committee, according to Frank Reich over in Indianapolis, Nyheim Hines may be having more of a role in this committee than we originally thought. So is this someone that appeals to you in any way?
You got to be careful of what coaches say. I mean, a lot of times they don't even do the math in their heads. And yeah, okay, there's one game he's going to catch 10 passes. Like, how does he know? Look, Rivers has done a really good job of dumping it off to running backs. The running backs in the Chargers had a ton of targets last year. But we just heard comments a week ago. I think it was from the offense coordinator. Oh, it's going to be like a 1-1A between Jonathan Taylor and Marlon Mack. So, like, so how's this going to work? Now, Nyheim Hines right now is ADP since May 4th in the best ball 10s is 167. So, yeah, if you're in a best ball, you only need 3-4 games from especially a pick that late. So there could be some opportunity. But Taylor can't catch the football. Mack can't catch the football. So I'd just be careful of overrating what Frank Reich is saying. Like, yeah, Nyheim Hines is a bargain right now, but I just don't know if he's going to have that big of a role, especially they moved up to draft Taylor. We're seeing him go very early in drafts. So I'd just be careful. I mean, yeah, where Hines is going now in best ball league, sure, 167, you're not risking anything at that point. But let's not push him up too far because a lot comes down to game script as well. And, I think the Colts are an improved team. Obviously, quarterback play held them back a little bit last year. Jacoby Brissett got off to a really nice start, had the knee injury, was playing with a brace.
Right.
But this team, excellent offensive line, good defense, added Michael Pittman at wide receiver. They need T.Y. Hilton to be healthy. They got Jack Doyle there. I do think this is a team, though, that is going to focus on the run. And I think it's going to be a lot of Mack, a lot of Taylor. I think they want Rivers to kind of manage the game. Rivers was very turnover prone last year. We know he doesn't have the same arm strength. So this is a different offensive line for Rivers as well. So I think they're going to limit Rivers, and I think they're going to focus on running the football a lot.
So would you take Nyheim Hines or Duke Johnson?
I would take Duke Johnson.
Me too. I think that makes the most sense. Now, let me ask you this. It's true that Rivers like to dump off the passes to the running back. How do you feel about Austin Eckler now?
I'm a little bit concerned about him. I don't think that volume will replicate. If Tyrod Taylor is the starting quarterback, he's going to look to run a little bit more. So that could negate some of the targets. I think they clearly don't want to overwork Eckler. I mean, he was very good last year, a very efficient running back. But, I do worry about some of the volume in the passing game going down a little bit. And again, we still don't know who the quarterback's going to be either. That's something that we have to wait and see. Everyone's assuming that Taylor will start the year, but how quickly do they go to Justin Herbert, turn it over to him?
Absolutely. Well, I mean, the good news is that we have lots of fun stuff to talk about with NFL. We may, it looks like, still have an MLB season. So I want to talk about that just for a little bit, hypothetically. One thing that was kind of exciting and encouraging to me was, last week, the governor of California, the people of California were saying, no, you guys in LA County are staying inside until at least the end of July. And then yesterday, Governor Newsom comes out and says, hey, no, we're going to be entering phase 3 reopening in the state of California. And that includes probably, if all goes well, stadiums without fans and sports can come back. So it seems like it's been a quick change. And because of that, I have some encouragement that sports may be coming back, specifically baseball, because I do love it. Though there was just a tweet from John Heyman a while ago, maybe 20 minutes ago, that came out saying that one of the things that's happened in the union, in the negotiations, is that the MLB gave the union two options. One, to negotiate a new financial arrangement, something other than prorated play for players playing games with no fans in attendance, or two, to wait until coronavirus clears to the point where fans can attend games. So it's like, yay, close. No, I mean, how are you feeling now? Does this news change how you feel about how this is going to end up going?
No, I think obviously there's a lot of posturing here on both sides, and, this is what's going to happen. And I just hope that the people involved in all this realize that it's going to be such a terrible look for them if they do not find a way to get the season underway, assuming that we can do it in a healthy fashion. If it comes down to financials and money, they're going to lose a lot of fans. I mean, I hope they realize this. And especially they're in a spot where they could command the spotlight. People are going to be home. We know some states are open. But even in the states that open, there's still going to be a large contingent of people who are going to be fearful of going out. And they're going to want to see, okay, let's see how it is. There's going to be a lot of people glued to TVs. And if they can come back in July, they're going to get really, really good ratings. So I just hope that they kind of realize that this is a bad look. And both sides can come to an agreement. It's not going to be ideal for anyone. Everyone's going to lose out here. Every day people are losing. People are out of jobs. People have taken pay cuts. So I just hope that this look is terrible for them if it comes down to financials. And hopefully they realize this and come to an agreement. I just think it would be catastrophic if it comes down to money and they don't play this year. And they have to be smart and realize that it would look terrible for them and it would turn a lot of people off for a long time.
I agree too. And, obviously hindsight's 2020, but if it turns out that it does look like everything's open and everything's moving July 4th and MLB has scrapped all their plans because of what appears to be money negotiations, which let's face it, that's what most of this is. Of course, there's a health issue. No one's saying that anyone with a health issue should play. If you really feel there's a risk, if you have an underlying condition, you shouldn't play, and you should be allowed to make that choice if you don't want to play. But if they scrap the whole season, it's going to be about money issues, and it's not going to be good for the sport. So I hope that they can figure out a way around it. And then, of course, if they move forward and there is a health outbreak, that they'll stop it, and it will be safe for everyone. But they have to at least try. That's my opinion. We talked about this earlier in a discussion. I know that's how I feel. But one thing I do want to kind of put out there is let's pretend it's happening, because I need to live in that kind of a bubble right now. And I wanted to ask you, I've been playing around with some different strategies in drafts. I tried a draft last week and it got graded very well based on taking a pitcher much, much later on the 82 games. And this was based on the ECR. So that's the consensus of a lot of experts, and how some of them have updated their rankings, some of them haven't. But based on half a season, it looked to work, as well as taking saves earlier, which is something I think you also agree with, Adam, that you might need to reach a little earlier for saves in a shorter season. But I want to ask you about one particular player. This is a player that usually goes in the first round, might go early second. I want to know if you would still take this player there. Here are the stats. In 2018, in the first half, this player batted .302 with 29 home runs, 70 RBI, and 20 stolen bases. In the second half, this player batted .218 with 10 home runs, 35 RBI, and 14 stolen bases. So clear split there for the half. Second half wasn't as good. In 2019, the first half, this player batted .218 with 7 home runs, 35 RBI, but 18 stolen bases. Second half batted .327, 16 home runs, 48 RBI, 6 stolen bases. What do you do with this kind of a player in a half season that starts in July?
I mean, I don't think there's an easy answer. I don't think you can deduce anything from that data at all. He's obviously been a streaky player, and I know that's Jose Ramirez. And I've taken him in drafts already. That was obviously before knowing the delay, but I still would take him because, to me, he's a 5-category guy, and there's just not many of those anymore. He's going to run. He's got some power. Obviously, the average has been, up and down. I mean, look at the last 4 years, 312, 318, 270, 255. The last 2 years, though, the batting average of balls in play has been low. I know he's kind of struggled with breaking pitches there late in 2018. He's been a very streaky player, but I'm still willing to take him. And
here's the thing that stands out to me in these stats, not even just the half splits, but since the beginning of 2018, he hasn't been able to have both average and speed at the same time. It's as if you're kind of choosing one or the other. So is he really a 5-category player if he's only playing half the season? I mean, this is rhetorical. I mean, I don't know. This is just for debate. And I don't know that you can say, he's going to always play 82 games in one way. But it does seem to be going that way, that he doesn't actually contribute across all 5 categories evenly at any given time. Now, over the course of the full season, this guy's an amazing player. There's no doubt that you draft him where you draft him. But to me, this is someone that, if it came down to him or JD Martinez, I might just go with JD Martinez, because then I at least know what I'm going to get.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, and you use the "no" in quotation marks. No one knows anything. I mean, this is unprecedented. We don't know what kind of shape these guys are staying in. There could be more injuries. We really don't know. And baseball, for fantasy, for me, it comes down to why I like it so much, 6-month season. Anything, you can get off to a slow start or rebound like Ramirez has shown. But obviously, if he's not hitting for average, he's not getting on base much, he can't run. So they're correlated there. But I'm just going to go on the skill set. And some people are looking at first half, second half splits, and I think it doesn't do anything, because the first half splits, If you're looking at a player that struggled, it could be they don't perform well in the cold weather, and April and May on the East Coast especially could be cold weather, and then they heat up in the second half.
But that can't be the case here because it's not the same season split.
Not saying specifically with Ramirez. I'm saying in general for people who are going to take out the first, second half splits and look at that and go, oh, well, this guy performs poorly in the first half and great in the second half. I'm going to move him up my draft board. I don't think you can do that because we don't know what the factors are. And a lot of times guys are playing with injury that we don't know about, that we find out till after the year. They're going through something off the field. Their wife is pregnant. They're going through a divorce. So I don't think you can look at those splits and use it and go, well, this guy's been a second half player forever. Maybe it's because it takes a while for his body to get going and really get into a rhythm. So I just don't think these first, second half splits are really going to help you when you're trying to draft for an 82-game season because this is way different than anything we've seen.
So I agree, but the reason I selected this player is because it's not consistent the way he splits, and that's what makes it the most interesting to me. I think there's a lot of players, for instance, Edwin Encarnacion. That guy stinks in March and April, always. I mean, this is kind of anecdotal. I didn't look up the things, but I know he's never hot until May, and I don't know if it's like his Latin blood, he needs to be warm and then he gets really smoking or what's going on, but that's just the case. So the question is it the warm weather? Or does it take him that long to warm up? All those things I've never known, and I don't think you can know if you're going first half, second half. But in this case, when in 2018, his first half was awesome, his second half sucked, and then his first half sucked in 2009, his second half was good. Essentially, he had a full season of suck in a row. It's just that it was interrupted by
a full season of greatness.
Not in these seasons, not contiguous. So he had that interruption. So that's my question. Like, is he starting to fall off? Is this someone you should trust? I don't know. I mean, obviously this is all we're just coming up with fun stuff to talk about, but this is something fun that's kind of a debate because I've found myself when I get around there now, like normally I would not hesitate. First round, but with it only being 82 games, I just feel like there's a bigger bust potential than before. You think it's the same? Doesn't matter?
I mean, you could look at it that way, but he
as far as a first round pick, would you take him in the first round?
I would. In a 15-team league, I probably still would. Late first, early second round, yes, I would.
Late second, I could see. But first, I don't think I could do it.
If I'm top 50, if it's a 15-team league and I'm picking 13, 14, 15, I would consider him.
Okay. All right. Okay. What if you already had Trey Turner?
I wouldn't draft Trey Turner.
Okay. What if you already had Trevor Story?
Then I could go in a different direction possibly. I mean, but then again, short and third base. So, I mean, the one thing, if you want to argue, you can say third base is extremely deep. And there are a lot of guys that you like better that you want to take.
And he doesn't have the second base eligibility anymore.
I mean, Josh Donaldson, Matt Chapman, there's so many good third basemen. It is extremely deep. So if you want to use that as an argument, that's fine. Again, if I can in the first few rounds, I want to get as many guys as I can that contribute in 5 categories. And I still think Ramirez is one. Again, it's been perplexing what's going on with them the last couple of years because it has been extreme. I mean, it's insane when you look at what he did in the second half last year compared to the first half. I mean, he had 16 homers in his final 43 games.
Right. Crazy. It's crazy. And so maybe you could just bet he figured it out. Whatever was going on, he got over that slump. He figured it out, whatever was the hitch in his swing or whatever. And now he's smoking hot again, and he's going to be back to 300 batting average with 30 home runs and 20 stolen bases. So I guess it just depends on how you feel about Jose Ramirez. I just think it's an interesting thing. These are the kind of questions that are going to come up if we have 82 games, and not just, as I said, the seasonal splits of like what's warming up and what's warm weather, because those are two different things. But players that are just freaking streaky. And that's what's frustrating, I think, to players like you and I, Adam, who we do our decisions, we make our picks based on a full season. And this isn't the way that baseball is supposed to go. So there's going to be a lot more luck involved. It feels a lot more luck based this way.
Yeah, I think it's a disadvantage for the skilled player because you put a lot of time and research in, and we all know we've seen it before. There's going to be a player that just torches it up in July that you're going to acquire off the waiver wire. And if you're fortunate enough to pick him up in the first week and you put him in your lineup for a month, I mean, that's going to be 1/3 of the season. And, Mike Trout can have a bad stretch. We don't see it often.
Right.
But, he did hit 275 in May last year. That's not a bad month for most players, but kind of bad for him, right?
Austin Riley could have won you your league last year, probably.
I mean, Mike Trout's wife is pregnant, right? What if that weighs on his mind? Garrett Cole's wife is pregnant. What if that weighs on his mind? So there's just so many things that can happen. We've seen, even the best players have a bad stretch of a week or two. And, that's going to be glaring in a season if it pans out to be 82 games. That can really hurt you. And, you're just not taking Trout out your lineup. You just won't. Those guys you take in the first couple rounds. I think this year, though, you're going to be even less patient with guys in the middle to late rounds, regardless of what their name is. You're going to have to make quick decisions. There's no time for patience. That's one thing in baseball. I've won a lot of leagues where I was terrible in the first half. I mean, there was a year I won Tout Wars where I was like 10th place in May or early June. But I just looked at my team and I said, I have the guys here. I'll make a couple moves to improve the weak spots. And it worked to turn around. That's not going to be the case this year. You have a bad first month. You're going to have to make some rash decisions. There's no time for patience. And it's really going to change the way we play fantasy baseball this year, hopefully, if we get to play.
It's going to be really difficult for me because I'm also a very, very patient player, maybe almost too patient, but it seems to have always worked out for me. But look at the way Chris Sale started off last season. Look at players like Corey Kluber. There's the people that you're just not going to have patience with, and you're going to pull the trigger. And then down the stretch, Darvish. I wanted to pull the trigger on Darvish at certain points last season. Good thing I didn't. That worked out really well for me. But you're going to have to figure out what to do. And we're going to have to be active on the waiver wire no matter what. And also, of course, we did have some sad news yesterday. I'd like to send our condolences from the entire Fantasy Alarm team to Starling Marte, who lost his wife very suddenly yesterday to a heart attack. And our thoughts and prayers are with you, Starling Marte, and to you and your family. So thoughts and love there. But Adam, it's just one bummer after another. So give me some good news. Any kind of good news. Just, I don't know. What have you got? Did you do anything cool this week?
Is what?
Did you do anything cool this week?
What did I do? I mean, I went to go see my mom again. So that was a good thing. She's on her own alone. So she did say she gets kind of lonely. So just to cheer her up for, a day was good. So that's what I did. Otherwise, I mean, it's the same old thing, taking my daily walks, it was nice weather over the weekend. It's kind of nice here today on the East Coast and, working, still working.
Yeah, we are still working.
I'll be on the 2 radio shows today.
I think I'm only on 1 today. There's an outside chance it might be 2. I have to follow up on that. But Last Dance is over too. Is that a bummer for you?
Yeah, I loved it. They talked about, I think a lot of people were like, 10 hours or 10 episodes is going to be too much, but I thought they did a great job. There was never a moment where I was bored. Definitely great insight, reliving those memories. And I wasn't even a huge Michael Jordan fan at all. I've never owned a pair of Jordans, which some people find shocking. But I respect, what he accomplished and kind of going behind the scenes and seeing everything that he had to deal with. And it was a very, very good series. So it was appointment television for me on Sunday night. So I guess I have to find something new. I know they're coming out with some other documentaries, including the McGuire-Sosa home run chase. So I'll be interested in that. I love sports documentaries. There's a lot of good 30 for 30s. If people didn't see the Dennis Rodman one, because Rodman was a big character in this Last Dance, check out the 30 for 30 on Rodman. I thought that was very well done. And you see he didn't really grow up in the, with the best surroundings and, started basketball late, was bullied as a kid. So very interesting. And maybe that kind of explains the wild character of Rodman, but he was a key component for that team. And for Michael Jordan to deal with him shows you how much they knew he meant to that team on the court. And you cannot knock. He did a lot of crazy things off the court, skipped practice, in the NBA Finals to be on Monday Night Nitro with Hulk Hogan. But that next game, he balled out, grabbed those rebounds, defended, and did what he had to do.
So there you go, guys. There are your sports documentary recommendations from Adam Ronis. I have zero because, as we've already established, I'm really uncool when it comes to TV shows and anything pop culture, unfortunately. But you can find Adam again on the radio tonight, Alarm After Hours, which is now at a new time. It starts at 11 p.m. Eastern time. So for you guys who've been tuning in at midnight, you get to tune in an hour earlier, and we get to go to bed an hour earlier too, which is awesome. And there is also a Fantasy Alarm Roundtable tonight, 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Eastern time. Adam and I will both be on that. Adam and I will also both be back here tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern time, 12 Pacific time. I have to make sure I get all these numbers right in my head. And we'll be talking about this with a cast of characters. Howard Bender, John Mpemba, Justin Finsterman, myself, and Adam will be back for more hijinks. And if you don't follow us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, what the heck are you waiting for? It's so much fun, and you can razz us, and we'll razz you right back because, hey, that's what quarantine is all about. So, Adam, I'm going to send you on your way. You have a lot of work to do. Thanks for hanging out with me again. By the way, this is like the closest Adam and I have ever been. I feel like we talk like every day. He's totally my bestie. I think I have him on speed dial. Thanks, Adam.
No problem. Anytime. I'm here for you.
All right, guys. Check it out tomorrow, 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern time. We'll catch you next time.